Hello friends, Techman Pat here. Welcome to the Dirt Report. This is actually going to be the last Dirt Report for 2024 because in a couple of days, 2025 is around the corner, but it is not the end of the show, the Tech and Telco show for all Australian tech and telco news. We're still going to be doing it in 2025. I've been not really away from YouTube, but just so busy with product reviews that the Dirt Report has taken a bit of a backseat. But I will be back for more tech and telco news in 2025. So yeah, stay tuned. More of that. Probably a little bit less product because it just takes so much time. So I'm going to pick only the most interesting and best products out there. In saying that, today's topic is a little bit nerdy, a little bit heavy. The headline on IT News is right after the intro. Let's get started. So, where we left off, headline news from IT News. Here we go, we're going to share my screen. NBN has revealed the cost of building lead-ins for 285,000 premises that upgraded from copper or fiber to the curb to full fiber in the last financial year was between 27 and 29% higher than forecasted. This is quite concerning, but for more context, we need to look to the NBN's latest FY24 report. So what we're going to do is going to break it down and see how this impacts the company and their overall financial performance in the last 12 months. So let's jump to that. Now, for those new to the channel, welcome. Make sure to like and subscribe. And you may be wondering, what is this report we have in front of us? This is the Special Access Undertaking, or SAU that I like to refer to it as. It's a regulatory framework that governs how NBN operates, things like prices, service standards, and financial reporting. Now, this report gives us a detailed look at NBN's revenue, operating costs, and investments for the financial year ending. And this one is the 2024, so June 2024. Now, like I said, it may be a bit boring, but I have tried to keep it short, so bear with me. Now, I don't have the exact pages, but let's start with the revenue, I think. Okay, here we go. So for FY24, NBN reported a total revenue of $5.213 billion under the SAU framework. Now, this includes money earned from their core broadband services. They even exceeded their forecast due to higher demand for their services. Now, NBN's total operating expenditure, which is this one here, for FY24 was $2.904 billion, which was slightly below forecast. Now, these components include things like infrastructure payments, which was $1.034 billion, employee benefits, which surprisingly is only let's round it up to $644 million, and the network costs at $681 million. Now, there were savings which came from operating efficiencies and lower service assurance costs. However, inflation, as with everything else, pushed up the costs in areas like network maintenance and power. Then on capital expenditures, I'm not going to go through each and every line item, but there are some highlights. This covers all the investments NBN has made to upgrade and expand the network. And for FY24, the capex totaled $3.808 billion. That's $248 million higher than forecasted. And so $1.124 billion went into upgrading fiber to the node to fiber to the premises. One of those premises were mine recently. Check that video below if you want to see how that upgrade went. Then fixed wireless upgrades saw $492 million, and this was driven by the need for additional capacity rather than just, newer things. It's just more people are using it, which is surprising because SpaceX and Starlink doing pretty well, so I'm kind of surprised. But new developments cost $260 million, and this was reflecting increased demand, which is really exciting. This is great news for everyone around Australia, and inflationary pressures. Now, to manage costs, NBN deferred some spending on the HFC and transit capacity upgrades, which is interesting and probably may upset people who are waiting for the HFC upgrade. Now, how did the actual numbers compare to forecasts, for example? Well, NBN Co stayed efficient with their OPEX, spending $14 million less than expected. However, they spent more on CapEx to accelerate the network upgrades. Again, so much demand. But here's the bottom line. NBN Co's total revenue was $5.214 billion. This exceeded forecasts. They kept operating costs well under at $2.904 billion, despite very high inflation. And it's still high inflation. It's just being messed about by the government figures. Now, they invested heavily in network upgrades with $3.808 billion in capital expenditures. So the money that they got in went back into expanding the network, which is exactly what you want. So look, can't complain about that. So then coming back to that cost blowout of the lead-in costs, well, it's redacted. And this has been the case for many years, and I'm not sure why NBN Co is doing that, but based on the report, NBN Co seems to be balancing their budget well overall, and that 30% roughly blowout on the lead-ins, well, it seems to be purely inflationary. But let's take a look at what a lead-in is, and NBN Co has a nice little page here about it. Now, a lead-in is basically the physical link that connects your home to the NBN network, giving you access to the internet. Now, think of it as a final piece of the puzzle that bridges the gap between the main NBN infrastructure that's down the street and the actual fiber in your home, right? And here's what it actually generally involves: a conduit on cabling, and this is where it goes under your driveway into your home on your property. There's trenching and drilling involved, and then obviously there's a connection to your home, which is when the NBN technician comes out and installs the NBN utility box and, you know, mounts it outside your home. Again, video about that below, and that is the last part. And that actually usually costs around $850 to $1,500, $2,000 to do. That person coming out spends about a couple of hours. There's a bit of preemptive setup by back-end NBN stuff, but it's not expensive to actually do the last little connection. Now, when I had my NBN installed, I was the first on the street, and because I documented the process, I was told by the NBN tech that NBN Co runs around 8 fiber or more points into the street, not expecting all the homes to connect, which means the upfront costs are potentially high because they're only going to sign up 1 or 2 customers at first. But the future revenue, that's the potential of that street's connection bringing in for NBN Co, is there ready to go. So only that last little connection to your home that only costs like $1,000 needs to be done to get revenue from that customer, which is really good actually. So you pay up front more, but you have the ease of connecting a new person really quickly. However, there are reasons for the increases, and it really depends on a few things, right? First, the type of location of the property. So if you're in the remote area or a place that's tricky to reach, the work becomes a lot more labor intensive, and then obviously drives up costs. Now, there's also the infrastructure upgrades. If the conduit or pit that carries the cable are damaged, they'll need to be repaired or even replaced, which again adds to the expense of the lead-in. And of course, we have the factor in the labor and materials, which has been the driving force of a lot of the cost increases. Now, both the skilled labor market and materials have gone up, and look, 29% at the top end is kind of reasonable. It's not bad. It's expected across a lot of other industries. So this is exactly what we saw reflected in the report. The big jump in demand is also pretty interesting, which meant that for every sign up, well, there was more sign ups, so more percentages, more money, and in total it was just overall more, which on one hand is great because more people are signing up, which means they'll be paying for the services and then revenue for NBN Co. All of this is a perfect storm for higher expenses. But there is something else that caught my eye this week, and it was the communication workers unions who said that NBN Co should stay under the control of the elected government as a national security measure. And every month, or every quarter, we get somebody talking about the NBN being sold off to someone. Now, this is a document I'm referring to, by the way, the Inquiry into the National Broadband Network Committee's Amendment Commitment to Public Ownership. Every month we get somebody talking about, oh, the NBN's going to get sold. Let's hope it doesn't, but there seems to be a reminder every quarter, every month. Here's a direct quote just down here. It is critical for our national sovereignty and security that this essential communication and transmission infrastructure is kept in public ownership, so that is fully accountable to the Australian people through their parliament. And I have to say, I completely agree with this. I've talked about this many times, but I would like to add that I would like to also know, because it's public interest, and if NBN could unredact the lead-in costs, why do they hide it? I don't know. It's a government entity for the public. Why are they hiding it? I'd really, really like to know. So, what does this all mean? Well, we have a pretty good budget, a bit of blowouts. You could account it to inflation and demand, which is really exciting. And overall, why they're redacting the costs of the lead-ins, no one knows, but here we are. It's a public entity. It should not be redacted. But we're living under the Australian government, so it is what it is. But friends, thank you. Thank you for you, the watcher, the subscriber or not, for a fantastic 2024. And I wish you all the best in the new year. I wish to see you here again. And if you haven't already liked the video, make sure to smash and give it a like. And if you want to support this channel, give it a subscribe. That really does help with the YouTube algorithm. I hope this video didn't go on too long. Or maybe it should, because it is the last one I'm making up for all the other videos. I'll see you all in 2025. I'm signing off for this year. Bye!